The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the Starweaver as Captain Zethkar's 4 eyes focused on the strange signal appearing on his screens. His chitinous fingers clicked against the control panel, while his crew of insectoid beings buzzed, with nervous energy around him. In his 300 years of service to the Galactic Survey Division, he had never seen anything quite like this. "Captain," chirped his communications officer, "we are receiving a mathematical transmission from the 3rd planet of this system. The patterns suggest intelligence, but our databases show this world as uninhabitable." Zethkar's antennae twitched, with concern. Every spacefaring species in the galaxy knew the rules. When you found a death world showing signs of life, you stayed far away and called the experts. These planets were cosmic graveyards where evolution had gone horribly wrong. Nothing good ever came from worlds marked with red warnings in the navigation charts. But the mathematical sequences kept coming, and they were beautiful. Perfect prime numbers, geometric proofs, and complex equations that made even their ship's computer pause in admiration. Someone down there was not just alive, but thinking at a level that impressed galactic standard technology. "Sir, I'm detecting massive electromagnetic interference from the planet's surface," reported the sensor operator. "There are artificial satellites in orbit and what appears to be a space station near the 4th planet." The captain's compound eyes widened. Space stations meant advanced civilization. Advanced civilization on a death world meant something had gone very, very wrong with their classification system. 300 million kilometers away, Commander Lisa Johnson sat in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, watching her own screens with growing excitement. The human monitoring systems had picked up the alien vessel 12 hours ago, and she had been trying to make contact ever since. "Ma'am," called out Lieutenant Pete Davis from his communication station, "I'm getting a response to our mathematical signals. They're sending back Fibonacci sequences and what looks like geometric theorems." Lisa smiled and pushed a strand of brown hair behind her ear. After years of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, first contact was finally happening. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, studying every possible scenario and protocol. "Send them our location coordinates and basic information about our solar system," she ordered, "and prep the translation programs. We're about to make history." Dr. Jake Morrison was in his laboratory aboard the Mars Research Station when the priority alert came through. As the station's lead xenobiologist, he was the closest thing humanity had to an alien expert, even though he had never actually seen an alien before. His specialty was studying the possibility of life in extreme environments, which suddenly seemed very relevant. "Jake, get down to communications right now," came Lisa's voice over the intercom. "We need you to help establish meaningful contact with our visitors." Jake dropped his specimen samples and ran through the corridors of the spinning station. His heart pounded with excitement and terror in equal measure. Everything he had studied and theorized about was about to become real. When he reached the communication center, the main screen showed a 3-dimensional star map with a blinking dot representing the alien ship. Numbers and symbols scrolled across smaller displays as both species tried to find common ground in mathematics and physics. "They're responding to everything we send," explained Sergeant Amy Collins, the station's communications specialist. "But I think they're confused about something. They keep asking for confirmation of our planetary designation." Jake studied the incoming signals and noticed patterns that troubled him. The aliens seemed surprised that anyone was answering from Earth. More than surprised. They seemed shocked and maybe even frightened. "Send them images of Earth from space," Jake suggested. "Let them see what our world looks like. Maybe that will help them understand who they're talking to." Back on the Starweaver, the crew gathered around their main display as the first images of Earth appeared. Captain Zethkar felt his breathing apparatus constrict as he stared at the blue and white sphere floating in the void. "Run a full spectral analysis," he ordered quietly. "I want to know everything about that planet." The results came back within minutes, and they were terrifying. The planet's atmosphere contained deadly oxygen at concentrations that would kill most galactic species within seconds. Massive storm systems raged across its surface with wind speeds that could tear apart their ship. The land masses showed active volcanic regions, and the sensor readings indicated frequent seismic activity. "Captain, whispered his science officer. "According to our data, this world experiences regular bombardment from space debris, has unstable weather patterns, and shows signs of having been struck by massive asteroids in its past. The radiation levels from its star should have sterilized all life millions of years ago. But the signals kept coming from the surface. Not just random noise, but organized, intelligent communication from beings who seemed completely unaware that they were living in what the galaxy considered a cosmic nightmare. Sir," the communications officer announced, "they're sending us cultural information now. Music, art, and what appears to be historical records." The first human music to play on an alien ship was a simple folk song performed by a children's choir. The melody was beautiful, but when the translation computers processed the lyrics, the alien crew fell silent in horror. The song was about children playing outside during a thunderstorm, laughing as electricity split the sky above them. Next came images of human cities built along coastlines, where massive waves regularly destroyed everything in their path. Pictures of people living on mountainsides where the ground itself could open up and swallow entire communities. Photos of humans swimming in bodies of water filled with creatures that could kill them in seconds. Captain Zethkar realized they were looking at an entire species that had evolved on a world that should have killed them long before they developed intelligence. These humans had not just survived their hostile environment, but had built thriving civilizations in the middle of it. "Prepare a message to Galactic Command," he ordered. "Tell them we have discovered an impossible species on an impossible world. And tell them we need immediate assistance from the Xenological Council." The response from Lisa Johnson came through an hour later, carried by radio waves across the dark space between their ships. Her voice was clear and friendly, speaking in perfect galactic standard that she had somehow learned from their basic transmission protocols. "Welcome to our solar system," she said. "We are the humans of Earth, and we are very excited to meet you. We have prepared living quarters on our station that should be comfortable for your species, and our doctors are ready to help with any biological needs you might have. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Jake Morrison added his own message, filled with scientific curiosity. "We have many questions about your technology and your civilization. We hope you have questions about us too. We think we have much to learn from each other." Captain Zethkar listened to these messages and felt something he had never experienced before. These humans were inviting deadly aliens onto their space station without knowing anything about them. They were offering medical care to beings who might carry diseases that could wipe out their entire species. They were excited to share their knowledge with creatures who could potentially conquer their world. Either these humans were the most foolishly trusting species in the galaxy, or they were so dangerous that they had no fear of anything the universe could send their way. Looking at the blue and white death world spinning peacefully in space, Captain Zethkar suspected it was the latter, and that realization filled him with a mixture of terror and admiration that would change how the galaxy viewed both Earth and the strange, impossible creatures who called it home. Dr. Kate Williams had prepared for this moment her entire career, but nothing could have readied her for the reality of examining an alien being. The medical bay of Earth Defense Station Alpha hummed with activity as she set up equipment to conduct the first interspecies medical examination in human history. Captain Zethkar stood nervously in the center of the room, his forearms crossed while his compound eyes darted between the strange human medical devices. His chitinous shell gleamed under the bright lights, and his breathing apparatus made soft clicking sounds as he tried to stay calm. "This will not hurt," Kate assured him through the translation device. "We just want to understand your biology, so we can help if you get sick or injured while visiting our station." The alien captain nodded, though the gesture looked strange when performed by a being with an insect-like head. Kate began her scans, and within minutes, her medical computers were displaying information that made her question everything she knew about life in the universe. Zethkar's body was incredibly fragile. His bones were hollow like a bird's, designed for a world with lower gravity than Earth. His skin was thin and would tear easily. His internal organs were simple and efficient, but offered no backup systems if something went wrong. Most shocking of all, his blood carried very little oxygen and took nearly 10 minutes to clot when exposed to air. "Doctor," asked Zethkar, May I ask about human biology? Our medical scanners are showing readings that seem impossible. Kate smiled and gestured to a chair. Of course. What would you like to know? Our scans indicate that you have 2 of many internal organs. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, and your heart has multiple chambers. Why would evolution create such redundancy? Kate paused, realizing for the first time how strange human biology might seem to other species. Well, if one kidney fails, the other can keep us alive. If we damage a lung, we can still breathe with the remaining one. Our hearts pump blood through our bodies under high pressure to deliver oxygen quickly. The alien doctor who had accompanied Zethkar made a sound like glass breaking. Through the translator, his words came out as horrified whispers. High-pressure blood systems are found only in apex predators on death worlds. How do you not die from internal bleeding when injured? Before Kate could answer, pilot Tony Rodriguez walked into the medical bay carrying a cup of coffee. He waved casually at the aliens and accidentally knocked his hand against a sharp edge on one of the medical carts. A thin line of red blood appeared across his knuckles. The aliens immediately backed away in terror as Tony looked down at his minor cut with mild annoyance. "Aw, man, I just washed my hands," he muttered, reaching for a paper towel. "Tony, wait," Kate called out, suddenly realizing what the aliens were seeing. "Let them observe how humans heal." Tony shrugged and held out his hand. The aliens watched in amazement as his blood quickly began to clot. Within 30 seconds, the bleeding had stopped completely. Within 2 minutes, the edges of the small wound were already beginning to close. "Impossible," whispered the alien doctor. "No species heals that quickly without medical intervention." Kate took advantage of the moment to explain human biology in detail. She told them about human bone density, which was 3 times stronger than most galactic species. She described their immune system, which could fight off diseases that would kill other life forms. She explained how human muscles could function under extreme stress and actually grow stronger when damaged and repaired. The aliens listened with growing horror as Kate casually described abilities they considered superhuman. When she mentioned that humans could survive losing up to 40% of their blood, the alien doctor had to sit down. "Dr. Williams," Zethkar asked carefully, "what do humans consider a serious injury?" Kate thought for a moment. "Well, anything that requires surgery, I suppose. Broken bones that need to be set, deep cuts that need stitches, that sort of thing. Though people have survived much worse." She pulled up medical records on her computer and showed them images of humans who had survived car accidents, falls from great heights, and workplace injuries that should have been fatal. The aliens stared at X-rays showing healed bones that had been completely shattered and photographs of people who had lost limbs but continued living normal lives with artificial replacements. "On my world," the alien doctor said quietly, "any of these injuries would mean death within hours. How? Do humans not fear physical damage?" Tony laughed and took a sip of his coffee. "Fear it? We have extreme sports for fun. People jump out of airplanes, climb mountains, and race cars for entertainment." The mention of coffee caught the alien doctor's attention. His scanner began beeping frantically as he analyzed the liquid in Tony's cup. "What are you consuming?" he asked in panic. "Coffee," Tony replied, taking another sip. "Want some? It's pretty good today." "That liquid contains multiple alkaloids that would be fatal to most galactic species," the doctor exclaimed. "The caffeine concentration alone should cause immediate cardiac arrest." Tony looked at his coffee with new interest. "Really? Huh. I had 3 cups this morning and I feel fine." Dr. Kate realized they needed to discuss human diet with their guests. She led them to the station's cafeteria, where the day shift was having lunch. The aliens followed nervously, their scanners going crazy as they detected dozens of substances they classified as toxins. Environmental specialist Carl Davis was eating a sandwich loaded with hot peppers when they approached his table. Kate introduced him to the aliens and asked if he would mind explaining his meal. "Sure," Carl said, taking a big bite of his sandwich. "This is a classic Earth lunch. Bread, meat, cheese, and peppers grown in my home state of New Mexico." The alien scanner was screaming now. "Those peppers contain capsaicin," the alien doctor said urgently. That is a chemical weapon used by plants to prevent consumption. How are you eating it voluntarily? Carl grinned and took another bite. Because it tastes good. Makes my mouth burn a little, but that's part of the fun. The aliens watched in fascination and horror as Carl consumed what they considered a biological warfare agent with obvious enjoyment. When he offered them a taste, they backed away so quickly that one of them bumped into a wall. Kate decided to give them a tour of human nutrition. She showed them the spice rack in the kitchen, explaining how humans sought out foods that caused pain because they enjoyed the sensation. She described alcohol consumption, watching their faces as she explained that humans regularly consumed a substance that was literally poisonous to most life forms. Ethanol is a solvent, the alien doctor protested. It dissolves organic tissues. In large amounts, yes, Kate agreed. But in small amounts, it makes humans feel relaxed and social. We've been drinking it for thousands of years. She pulled up historical records showing human alcohol production dating back to the earliest civilizations. The aliens studied images of humans celebrating with wine, beer, and spirits, unable to comprehend a species that had turned poison into a social ritual. The final shock came when Kate explained human exercise. She took them to the station's gym, where several off-duty personnel were working out. The aliens watched in stunned silence as humans deliberately tore their muscle fibers by lifting heavy weights, ran on machines until they were gasping for air, and pushed their cardiovascular systems to their limits. They are torturing themselves, the alien doctor whispered. No, Kate explained patiently. They are making themselves stronger. When human muscles are damaged in controlled ways, they heal back stronger than before. When we stress our hearts and lungs, they become more efficient. We call it adaptation. Sergeant Amy Collins finished her workout and approached the group, her face red and sweat dripping from her skin. The alien scanners detected elevated heart rate, increased body temperature, and chemical changes in her blood that indicated extreme physical stress. Great workout today, Amy said cheerfully, grabbing a towel. I beat my personal record on the weight press. She walked away, humming a song, completely unaware that she had just demonstrated physical capabilities that the aliens considered impossible. Her body had endured stress that would have killed most galactic species, and she was treating it as a fun recreational activity. Captain Zethkar looked at Dr. Kate with new understanding. Your species does not just survive on a death world, he said slowly. You have become like your world, strong, dangerous, and nearly impossible to kill. Kate smiled and nodded. I suppose that's one way to look at it. We prefer to think of ourselves as adaptable. As the aliens prepared to return to their ship, they carried with them medical data that would revolutionize galactic understanding of biology. They had discovered a species that had turned survival into an art form, transforming every challenge their deadly world presented into an advantage. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth had not just produced survivors. It had created something far more remarkable and terrifying. It had created humans. Captain Rick Johnson stood on the deck of the research vessel Ocean Explorer, watching his alien guests prepare for their first trip to Earth's surface. The morning sun sparkled on the Pacific Ocean, while gentle waves lapped against the ship's hull. To him, it was a perfect day for marine research. To the aliens huddled in their protective suits, it looked like a journey into hell. The water pressure at our diving depth will reach approximately 400 pounds per square inch, Rick explained through the translation device. That's about 27 times the atmospheric pressure you're used to. Captain Zethkar's breathing apparatus made worried clicking sounds as he stared at the endless blue water surrounding their ship. His protective suit was bulky and reinforced, designed to keep his fragile body safe in Earth's hostile environment. Even with all the protection, he felt like he was preparing to visit the inside of a star. Captain Johnson, the alien scientist, Dr. Velnora asked nervously, how do Earth creatures survive such pressure? Our computers say it should crush any living thing. Rick smiled and gestured toward the diving equipment. That's what we're here to find out. Earth's oceans are full of life that has adapted to conditions your people would consider impossible. The diving bell descended slowly into the dark water, carrying Rick and two aliens toward the ocean floor. Rick wore only a standard diving suit, while his guests were enclosed in pressure chambers that looked more like small spacecraft than diving gear. As they went deeper, Rick pointed out creatures through the viewing window. Schools of fish swam past, their bodies perfectly adapted to the crushing pressure. The aliens watched in amazement as these creatures moved gracefully through water that would flatten their own bodies in seconds. These fish have swim bladders that regulate pressure, Rick explained, and their bodies are designed to handle the weight of all that water above them. To them, this is normal. At 2,000 feet below the surface, they reached the ocean floor near a volcanic vent. The water around the vent glowed with an eerie light, and the temperature readings showed heat that could melt metal, yet the area was full of life. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Velnora. "Nothing can live near volcanic activity." Rick activated the external lights and showed them tube worms as tall as humans, living directly around the superheated water. Crabs scuttled across rocks that were too hot to touch, and strange fish with glowing eyes hunted in the eternal darkness. "These creatures don't just survive here," Rick said proudly. "They thrive. The tube worms have bacteria in their bodies that convert the toxic chemicals from the vent into food. The crabs eat the bacteria in the tube worms. It's a complete ecosystem based on what you would call poison." The aliens stared in horror at creatures that lived in conditions that would kill them instantly. The pressure, the heat, the toxic chemicals, and the complete absence of sunlight created an environment that seemed designed to destroy life. Yet life had found a way not just to survive, but to flourish. When they returned to the surface, Rick arranged for them to meet Dr. Helen Brooks, a terrestrial ecologist who had prepared a presentation about Earth's land-based ecosystems. Helen welcomed the aliens to a conference room filled with photographs and specimens from around the world. "Earth's land surfaces present unique challenges," Helen began, showing images of different biomes. "Our planet has deserts where nothing rains for years, frozen regions where water turns solid, and jungles so dense that sunlight never reaches the ground." She showed them pictures of cacti surviving in deserts where the temperature reached levels that would cook most galactic species. She displayed photographs of penguins living on ice in temperatures that would freeze alien blood solid. She presented images of jungle creatures living in humidity that would drown air-breathing species from other worlds. "But the most interesting part," Helen continued, "is how our species learned to survive alongside the apex predators of each environment." The next series of images showed Earth's predators. Lions with teeth designed to tear flesh, bears weighing nearly half a ton and capable of running faster than most alien spacecraft could travel on the ground. Sharks with rows of razor-sharp teeth and the ability to sense electrical fields from miles away. "These creatures evolved alongside humans," Helen explained. "Our ancestors shared the same environments with these predators for millions of years." Captain Zethkar studied an image of a grizzly bear standing on its hind legs, towering over a human photographer. "Your people lived near these creatures. How did your species survive?" Helen smiled and clicked to the next image, showing early human tools, stone spears, primitive bows, and simple traps. "We learned to make tools, we developed teamwork. We became smarter and more adaptable than creatures that were bigger and stronger than us." She showed them images of modern humans interacting with dangerous animals. Park rangers working near bears, marine biologists swimming with sharks, and wildlife photographers getting close to big cats. The aliens could not understand why humans would voluntarily put themselves near creatures that could kill them easily. "We don't just survive around these predators," Helen said. "We study them, protect them, and even keep some as companions." The next images showed domestic dogs, and Helen explained how humans had taken wolves, one of their most dangerous predators, and bred them into hundreds of different varieties over thousands of years. The aliens looked at pictures of tiny lapdogs and massive working breeds, all descended from creatures that had once hunted human ancestors. Dr. Paul Anderson joined the presentation to discuss human agriculture. He showed the aliens how humans had transformed their hostile environment by domesticating plants and animals that had originally been threats or challenges. "Wheat was once a wild grass that was difficult to harvest," Paul explained. "Corn was a tiny plant with seeds the size of rice grains. Tomatoes were poisonous to most creatures, but humans selectively bred these plants over thousands of years, turning them into food sources that could feed millions. He showed before and after images of various crops demonstrating how human intervention had transformed small, barely edible plants into the foundation of civilization. The aliens realized that humans had not just adapted to their environment, but had actively changed it to serve their needs. "What about dangerous animals?" Dr. Velnora asked. "Surely you do not domesticate predators." Paul smiled and showed them images of cattle, pigs, and chickens. These animals were all dangerous in their wild forms. Wild boars can kill humans with their tusks. Wild cattle are aggressive and territorial. But we domesticated them and bred them to be gentler and more useful. He then showed them something that made the aliens question their understanding of biology entirely. Pictures of humans riding horses, animals weighing over 1,000 pounds and capable of killing a human with a single kick. The images showed humans not just surviving around these powerful creatures, but forming partnerships with them. Horses helped humans travel faster and carry heavier loads, Paul explained. In return, we gave them food, shelter, and protection from predators. It was cooperation between two species that benefited both. The concept of voluntary cooperation between humans and other dangerous species was something the aliens had never encountered. In their experience, dangerous creatures were avoided or eliminated, not befriended and domesticated. Marine biologist Captain Rick Johnson returned with video footage from their morning dive. He showed the aliens underwater recordings of humans, swimming freely in the ocean, sharing space with creatures that could easily kill them. "This human is swimming with dolphins," Rick narrated as the video played. Dolphins are highly intelligent marine mammals with powerful jaws and the ability to ram threats with enough force to break bones. The video showed a human diver playing with dolphins, the massive creatures gently interacting with the tiny human in a display of cross-species communication and trust. "And here," Rick continued, showing another video, "is a human swimming near a whale shark, the largest fish in our oceans." The aliens watched in amazement as a human swam next to a creature the size of a small spaceship, neither species showing fear of the other. The human looked tiny and fragile next to the massive fish, yet both moved through the water in peaceful coexistence. "Your species does not just survive in hostile environments," Captain Zethkar said slowly. "You have formed alliances with the hostile environment itself." Helen nodded and showed them one final image. It was a photograph of a human family having a picnic in a meadow, surrounded by flowers and trees with mountains visible in the distance. To the aliens, the image showed a family sitting calmly in an environment that contained thousands of ways to die. To humans, it showed a peaceful day in nature. "We call it home," Helen said simply. As the presentation ended, the aliens realized they were not just dealing with a species that had survived a death world. They were dealing with a species that had formed such a successful partnership with their hostile environment that they could no longer imagine living anywhere else. Earth had not produced victims of a cosmic accident. It had produced masters of adaptation who had turned one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds into a garden where they could raise their children in safety and happiness. Dr. Emma Watson had spent years studying human culture, but she had never thought about how strange it might look to aliens until she found herself explaining football to a group of beings who considered a gentle breeze to be dangerous weather. The aliens sat in the Earth Defense Station's recreation room, watching footage of a professional football game on the large screen. Their translators worked overtime as the crowd roared and players crashed into each other with tremendous force. "This is entertainment?" asked Captain Zethkar, his compound eyes focused on two massive humans colliding at full speed. "One of our most popular sports," Emma confirmed. "Millions of people watch these games and children start playing as early as age 5. The alien doctor, Dr. Velnora, was studying her medical scanner as it analyzed the impacts happening on screen. "These collisions are generating forces that should cause immediate death. How are the players still moving?" Emma paused the video on a particularly dramatic tackle. "Humans are built to absorb impact. Our bones are dense, our muscles provide cushioning, and our brains are protected by thick skulls and fluid. Plus, the players wear protective equipment." She showed them images of football gear, and explained how humans had developed technology specifically to allow them to hit each other harder and more safely. The aliens could not understand why any species would create better ways to inflict controlled violence on themselves, but why do this for fun? Dr. Velnora asked, genuinely confused. Emma switched to hockey footage, showing players moving at high speeds on frozen water while hitting a hard rubber disc with wooden sticks. When a fight broke out between players, the aliens retreated from the screen in alarm. Physical competition teaches us important skills, Emma explained. Teamwork, strategy, quick thinking under pressure, and how to handle pain and setbacks. These activities make us stronger and smarter. She showed them clips from other human sports. Basketball players jumping high into the air and colliding in mid-flight. Soccer players using their heads to redirect a ball moving at dangerous speeds. Baseball players standing calmly as someone threw a hard ball toward them at nearly 100 miles per hour. Every single one of these activities would be considered attempted murder on most civilized worlds, Captain Zethkar observed. Emma nodded and switched to extreme sports footage. Wait until you see what humans do when regular sports are not challenging enough. The aliens watched in horror as humans jumped from airplanes, climbed vertical rock faces without safety equipment, and surfed on waves tall enough to destroy buildings. The footage showed people deliberately seeking out the most dangerous situations they could find and treating them as recreational activities. This human is falling toward the ground at terminal velocity, Dr. Velnora said, pointing at a skydiver. Why is he not screaming in terror? Emma zoomed in on the skydiver's face, which showed pure joy and excitement. Because he knows his parachute will open, and he trusts his equipment and training. The feeling of falling through the air is something humans find thrilling. She showed them mountain climbers hanging from tiny handholds thousands of feet above the ground, their faces showing concentration and determination rather than fear. She displayed footage of deep-sea divers exploring underwater caves where one wrong turn could mean death, swimming through spaces barely large enough for their bodies. These activities require precise planning, excellent equipment, and years of training, Emma explained. Humans do not seek danger carelessly. We seek controlled danger that tests our limits and teaches us about our capabilities. Professor Dan Williams joined the presentation to discuss human history and conflict resolution. He displayed a timeline of human civilization that made the aliens question their understanding of social development. Humans have been fighting organized wars for over 5,000 years, Dan began, showing images of ancient battles. Our species has used conflict as a way to solve problems, defend territory, and test new technologies. The aliens studied images of human warriors throughout history, Bronze Age soldiers with spears and shields, medieval knights in heavy armor, and modern soldiers with advanced weapons. Each era showed humans finding new and more efficient ways to engage in combat. Most galactic species develop beyond physical conflict within centuries of achieving intelligence, Captain Zethkar noted. How did your species survive constant warfare? Dan smiled and showed them images of human cities rebuilt after being destroyed in wars. Warfare made us stronger. Every conflict taught us new lessons about organization, technology, and cooperation. The pressure of potential combat drove us to innovate faster and build more resilient societies. He showed them the concept of mutually assured destruction, explaining how humans had created weapons powerful enough to destroy their entire world, and then used the threat of mutual annihilation to maintain peace. You created a balance of terror. As a diplomatic tool? Dr. Velnora asked in amazement. It worked, Dan replied simply. When the cost of war became too high, we found other ways to compete. Trade, sports, scientific achievement, and cultural exchange. He showed them images of former enemies becoming allies, trading partners, and even friends. Countries that had fought brutal wars against each other now work together on space exploration, medical research, and environmental protection. Conflict taught us that cooperation is more powerful than conquest, Dan explained. But we had to learn that lesson through trial and error, which took thousands of years and cost millions of lives. Dr. Rachel Adams, the station's psychologist, presented her research on human stress responses and mental resilience. She showed the aliens brain scans of humans under extreme stress, demonstrating physiological changes that other species would consider evidence of severe trauma. When humans face life-threatening situations, our brains release chemicals that increase focus, strength, and pain tolerance, Rachel explained. What you would call a traumatic stress response, we call getting ready to handle a crisis. She showed them case studies of humans who had survived terrible accidents, natural disasters, and violent encounters. Instead of being permanently damaged by these experiences, many had become stronger and more capable. We call it post-traumatic growth, Rachel said, displaying charts and graphs. Humans often emerge from terrible experiences with increased confidence, better problem-solving skills, and stronger relationships with others. The aliens could not understand how trauma could make a species stronger rather than weaker. In their experience, beings who survived dangerous situations were left permanently damaged and unable to function normally. This human survived a building collapse, spent 3 days trapped under debris, and then returned to work as a construction engineer, Rachel said, showing them a case study. Not only did he continue working in a dangerous profession, but he became one of the most skilled safety inspectors in his field. She showed them similar stories. A pilot who survived a plane crash and became a flight instructor. A doctor who contracted a deadly disease and used the experience to develop better treatments. A soldier who lost a limb in combat and became a trainer for other wounded veterans. Adversity does not break humans, Rachel concluded. It reveals strengths we did not know we had and teaches us skills we could not learn any other way. The aliens began to understand that human culture was not just adapted to surviving on a death world. Human culture was specifically designed to create beings who became stronger through hardship, smarter through challenge, and more united through shared struggle. Emma returned to show them human art and literature. She displayed paintings of storms, battles, and natural disasters that other species would consider nightmare fuel. She read them poetry about overcoming impossible odds and stories where heroes faced certain death with courage and determination. Human entertainment often focuses on conflict, challenge, and triumph over adversity, Emma explained. We tell stories about ordinary people who accomplish extraordinary things when faced with impossible situations. She showed them movies where humans fought aliens, survived natural disasters, and explored dangerous new worlds. The aliens realized that human fiction was essentially training material, preparing them mentally for challenges they might never actually face. Your species uses imagination to practice surviving situations that have not happened yet? Captain Zethkar asked. Exactly, Emma replied. We prepare for problems we hope we will never encounter, but we want to be ready just in case. As the cultural presentation ended, the aliens sat in stunned silence. They had discovered a species that had turned survival into an art form, conflict into a learning tool, and danger into entertainment. Humans had not just evolved to survive on a death world. They had created a culture that celebrated the very qualities that made survival possible. Courage, resilience, innovation, and the ability to find strength in struggle were not just human traits, but human values. The galaxy was about to encounter a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of turning impossible situations into opportunities for growth and achievement. And that realization both terrified and amazed every alien who learned about it. Ambassador Veltara stood before the assembled Galactic Council, her tentacles trembling as she prepared to deliver the most important report in her diplomatic career. The great chamber hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 300 civilized worlds waited to hear about the impossible species discovered on the death world called Earth. Honored council members, she began, her voice echoing through the translation systems. I must recommend immediate reclassification of planet Earth and its inhabitants. The current designation of quarantined death world is completely inadequate for what we have discovered. The council chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Council leader Thaxmore raised his crystalline hand for silence. Ambassador Veltara, explain your findings. How dangerous are these humans? Veltara activated her holographic display, showing images of Earth from space. The planet itself remains as hostile as our original assessment indicated. Massive storms, seismic activity, deadly radiation, and toxic atmospheric conditions. However, the species that evolved there has exceeded every parameter we use to measure survival capability. She showed footage of humans swimming in oceans that should crush them, living in deserts that should cook them, and working in frozen regions that should freeze them solid. The Council watched in stunned silence as these creatures casually survived, in environments that would kill most galactic species within minutes. They have not just survived, Veltara continued. They have created a thriving civilization with billions of individuals, advanced technology, and space travel capability. They have transformed their death world into a garden. The display showed human cities, farms, and transportation networks covering the planet's surface. The Council saw evidence of a species that had not just adapted to their hostile environment, but had completely dominated it. What level of threat do they represent? Asked the military representative from the Zephyrian Empire. Veltara paused, knowing her next words would change galactic politics forever. Based on their biological capabilities, technological advancement rate, and cultural adaptability, I believe humans represent the greatest survival specialists the galaxy has ever produced. However, they also represent our greatest opportunity. She clicked to the next display, showing footage of human-alien cooperation aboard Earth Defense Station Alpha. Despite their incredible capabilities, humans appear to be naturally cooperative, curious, and willing to share knowledge with other species. The Council watched as humans helped injured aliens, shared their medical technology, and patiently explained their biology and culture to confused visitors. The footage showed beings who could easily conquer other worlds, choosing instead to offer friendship and assistance. Trade Representative Greg Murphy had been invited to address the Council via communication link from Earth. His image appeared on the main screen, showing a calm human sitting in what the aliens now understood was actually a dangerous space station orbiting a hostile world. Honored Council members, Greg said with a friendly smile, we appreciate this opportunity to introduce ourselves properly. Earth and humanity offer unique capabilities that could benefit all galactic civilizations. He activated his own presentation, showing human achievements in extreme environment engineering. Our technology is specifically designed to function in hostile conditions. Our people are trained to solve problems under pressure. Our culture emphasizes adaptation and innovation when faced with impossible challenges. The display showed human colonies being established on worlds that other galactic species had deemed uninhabitable, humans working in radiation zones that would kill other beings, mining operations in crushing gravity wells, and research stations built inside asteroid fields. We are not conquerors, Greg continued. We are survivors, explorers, and problem solvers. We would like to offer our services to help other species expand into regions of space that are currently inaccessible. Dr. Sarah Thompson joined the presentation from her research ship, where she was leading the first joint human-alien expedition to explore a world the aliens considered marginally habitable. Her team of humans was thriving in conditions that challenged their alien partners. This planet has gravity twice what most galactic species can handle comfortably, Sarah reported. The atmosphere contains trace amounts of chemicals that are toxic to many life forms, and the weather patterns are unpredictable. For humans, it's like a mild camping trip. She showed footage of her team setting up permanent research facilities, while their alien colleagues worked from protected shelters. The humans moved freely across the planet's surface, collecting samples and gathering data in environments their partners could only visit with heavy protective equipment. Human adaptability allows us to work directly in conditions where other species require expensive life support systems, Sarah explained. This makes exploration and colonization much more efficient and cost-effective. The Council began to understand that humans were not just another species to be catalogued and regulated. They were a solution to problems that had limited galactic's expansion for thousands of years. Captain Jack Harrison appeared on screen from the bridge of the first human vessel to receive official galactic registry. The ship looked different from standard galactic designs, built to withstand conditions that would destroy conventional spacecraft. The Endeavour has been stress-tested in solar radiation zones, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies, Jack reported. Human engineering approaches allow us to build ships that can operate in environments where standard galactic vessels cannot function. He showed footage of his ship flying through a cosmic storm that had stranded alien vessels for decades. The human craft moved through conditions that should have torn it apart, its crew working calmly at their stations while radiation and debris battered the hull. We are prepared to assist with rescue operations, exploration missions, and colonization efforts in regions currently considered too dangerous for galactic civilization, Jack offered. The council chamber filled with excited discussion as representatives realized the implications. Worlds that had been written off as uninhabitable could potentially be settled with human assistance. Trade routes through dangerous space could be established using human ships and crews. Scientific research could be conducted in environments previously thought impossible to survive. But some council members remained concerned about the implications of accepting such a dangerous species into galactic civilization. "How do we know humans will not use their abilities against us?" asked the representative from the cautious collective. Dr. Lisa Martinez, Earth's newly appointed galactic ambassador, addressed this concern directly. "Our history shows that humans fight when threatened or when protecting others, but we prefer cooperation to conflict. War taught us that working together accomplishes more than fighting against each other." She displayed images of human international cooperation, showing former enemies working together on space programs, medical research, and environmental protection. "We learned through experience that our greatest achievements come when we combine our strengths rather than competing with them." The vote was closer than expected, but the Council ultimately approved humanity's application for membership in galactic civilization. However, Earth's classification remained a subject of intense debate. "The planet Earth will be reclassified as a specialized training world," announced Council leader Thaxmore. "Humans will be welcomed as full members of galactic civilization, with specialized status as extreme environment specialists." The chamber erupted in celebration and concern as the galaxy officially acknowledged that the most dangerous known world had produced its most capable inhabitants. Within months, human teams were working throughout galactic space. They established research stations on worlds where the radiation would kill other species. They built mining operations in asteroid belts where gravitational forces made conventional work impossible. They rescued stranded ships from cosmic storms and guided exploration missions into uncharted regions of space. More importantly, they began training other species in advanced survival techniques. Alien cadets traveled to Earth to learn how to handle extreme conditions, though most could only survive there with extensive life support equipment. The galaxy discovered that humans did not want to conquer or control other worlds. They wanted to explore them, understand them, and help others do the same. Their death world had taught them that the universe was full of challenges to be overcome, rather than threats to be avoided. Dr. Lisa Martinez stood in the Earth Defense Station's observation deck, looking out at the blue and white planet that had shaped her species. Alien ships now regularly visited Earth's orbital facilities, bringing diplomats, scientists, and curious visitors who wanted to understand the impossible world that had created such remarkable beings. "You call our world a death world," she said to Ambassador Velterra, who had become a close friend and frequent visitor. "But we call it home. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but it's also full of challenges that require beings who learned to thrive where others merely survive." Velterra looked at Earth with new appreciation. "Your planet did not create victims of cosmic cruelty. It created graduates of the universe's most advanced survival academy.